I always believed that the love between Jake and me was unshakable. We had been together for 3 years, going through enough ups and downs to know we belonged to each other. With only a week left until our wedding, I could feel happiness waiting ahead. Charleston in June was beautiful. The oak-lined streets, the distant sound of waves crashing, and the gentle breeze that seemed to bless our union. I had dreamed of this day for so long. But if there was one thing that made me uneasy, it was Jake's family. From the first time we met, I knew they had never accepted me. Margaret, Jake's mother, was a powerful woman with an air of aristocracy, always maintaining a flawless appearance. She was polite to me, but with just one glance, I understood I wasn't the choice she wanted for her son. Richard, Jake's father, was quieter, but his cold demeanor was no less of a statement that I wasn't the right fit for the Mitchell family. They wanted Jake to marry someone of the same background, a woman from a wealthy, prestigious family, someone they could proudly introduce at lavish social events. I, an ordinary event planner, no matter how hard I tried, was nothing more than an outsider in their eyes. Jake knew this. He always told me it didn't matter what anyone else thought, that he loved me, and that was all that mattered. I believed him. That night, as we sat together on our familiar couch, I noticed hesitation on his face. Jake wasn't someone who usually kept things from me, but something was making him restless, as if he was struggling to find the right words. "Emma," he began, his voice slightly hesitant, "my parents want to take a trip to Miami this weekend. Before the wedding. Like a family getaway." I froze, setting my wine glass down. "Miami?" Jake nodded. "Yeah. They said it's a chance for me to relax a bit before marriage." I studied him, trying to read his thoughts through his eyes. "What about me?" He sighed. "They just want me to go. Kind of like a family-only trip." I let out a dry laugh, crossing my arms. "A trip where the bride isn't invited?" Jake frowned. "You know my parents. They just want some time with me before everything changes." I said nothing, just stared at him. This wasn't the first time Margaret had tried to push me out of her perfect family picture. But right before the wedding? Something about this felt off. And I'm supposed to be okay with this? Like it's totally normal? I asked, keeping my voice as steady as possible. Jake sighed, reaching for my hand. "Emma, don't make this a big deal. It's just a few days. When I come back, we'll be married. That's what really matters." I pulled my hand away. "Do you really think this doesn't matter, Jake? I'm going to be your wife. But right now, your family is deliberately excluding me from the picture." He was silent for a moment before he asked, "Do you trust me?" I wanted to say yes immediately. That I trusted him more than anyone in the world. But something deep inside me was screaming a warning. I knew Margaret too well. She never did anything without a reason. And I knew she had never accepted me. Jake saw my hesitation and squeezed my hand again. "Emma, I promise. It's just a trip. Nothing changes." I swallowed hard and forced myself to nod. But the unease in my chest refused to fade. Lying on the couch, wrapped in a thin blanket, I scrolled through the wedding photos Jake and I had taken a few weeks ago. We looked so happy in them. Jake had held me tight, whispering that he couldn't wait for me to be his wife. Thinking about it made me smile, until my phone buzzed. "Sophie." I frowned. It was almost midnight, and she rarely called this late unless it was important. "Sophie. What's wrong?" I answered quickly. "Emma, are you free right now?" Her voice was low but urgent. I could hear loud music in the background. "Yeah, I'm home." "Why?" She hesitated for a second, then said, "I'm in Miami. You know, for work. And, Emma, I just saw Jake." I shot up, my heart skipping a beat. "Jake? Are you sure? You might be mistaken." "There's no mistake," Sophie said firmly. "I saw him at a high-end bar. With his parents. And another woman." My entire body went rigid. Another woman? I tried to stay calm, but a bad feeling crept into my chest. Are you sure it was his family? I asked, my voice suddenly hoarse. Absolutely. I didn't just see them. I overheard parts of their conversation. Sophie hesitated before continuing. Emma, you need to hear this. His parents introduced her to one of their friends. They said she was a perfect match for their family. A chill ran down my spine. And, what about Jake? How did he react? He didn't object. You know, he didn't look entirely comfortable, but he also didn't speak up. Sophie's voice was filled with concern. Emma, I know this sounds bad, but I think you need to be careful. Something isn't right. I gripped my phone tightly, feeling a mixture of doubt and fear. Jake wasn't the kind of man who would betray me. We had been together for 3 years, overcoming so many challenges side by side. But I also knew that his family had never truly accepted me. They always wanted him to marry someone more suitable. I swallowed hard. Did you hear the name of the girl? I only caught a bit. It sounded like Charlotte or Charlene, Sophie replied. Emma, you need to talk to Jake. If something is going on, you need to know before it's too late. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Sophie was right. I couldn't pretend nothing was happening. But if I confronted Jake now, would I be acting too rashly? I didn't want to come across as a jealous and unreasonable fiancé. Thanks for telling me, Sophie. I'll handle it, I said softly. Are you okay? I let out a weak laugh. I don't know. But thanks anyway. As the call ended, I stared at my phone screen, my finger hovering over Jake's contact. 1 week before our wedding, he was seen with another woman at a bar, alongside his family. Should I trust him, or was this the first sign of a truth I wasn't ready to face? I wasn't the type to doubt easily or act impulsively. But after Sophie's call, my mind was in turmoil. The image of Jake sitting in an upscale bar with his parents and a mysterious woman haunted me. I tried to reassure myself. Maybe she was a business associate or a family friend. But my gut told me something was wrong. I barely slept that night. The next morning, after hours of staring at my cold coffee, I decided to do something I never thought I would. Hire a private investigator. I scrolled through endless lists online, reading reviews and ratings, before stopping at a name, James Calloway. A well-known PI in Charleston, someone who had helped countless clients uncover the truth behind deception. I didn't need more proof to justify my doubts about Jake, but I needed the truth. When I contacted James, his voice was calm and steady. He didn't ask too many questions, only requesting details about Jake, his trip to Miami, and what exactly I wanted investigated. After a moment of hesitation, I spoke plainly. I want to know if Jake is cheating on me. James was silent for a moment before responding. I understand. I'll start as soon as possible. 3 days later, I received my first email from James. It contained a series of distant photographs. Jake sitting with a beautiful blonde woman at a beachfront restaurant. His parents were there too, looking cheerful and at ease with her presence. My heart clenched. This wasn't just a casual meeting. Some might say it was just a family dinner, but there was no reason for me to be excluded from it. I called James immediately. Do you know who she is? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Her name is Madison Carter, James replied. She's the daughter of a prominent businessman in New York. Her family has strong ties to Jake's parents. I bit my lip, feeling a sharp pain spread through my chest. Madison Carter. Jake had never mentioned her before. And, how does Jake act around her? I asked, though I already knew the answer wouldn't be pleasant. They seem quite close, James said. Nothing too obvious, but I've seen them dine together twice. They seem to be having a great time. Jake's parents appear to like her very much. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. I stared at the photos on my screen, my mind racing. Jake had never told me about dining with another woman. And why did his parents seem so fond of her? A sense of betrayal started creeping in. Do you want me to keep tracking him? James asked, his tone completely neutral. I knew he had seen cases like this too many times before. I tightened my grip on the phone. Yes. Keep going. When the call ended, I sat in silence, staring out the window. 1 week before my wedding, I was questioning whether I truly knew the man I was about to marry. And the scariest part? I was beginning to get my answer. When I received another email from James, my hands trembled. Deep down, I still held on to a fragile hope that this was all just a misunderstanding. But when I opened the attachment, my heart sank. The first set of photos left no room for doubt. Jake and Madison walking along the beach, waves gently touching their feet as they exchanged smiles and glances. In another image, they entered a jewelry store together. Jake's hand rested lightly on her back, a gesture far too intimate. Then, a photo of them sitting across from each other at a high-end restaurant, glasses of wine in hand, his parents at the table, looking pleased. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my composure as I read James's detailed report. He had observed everything over the past 3 days. Jake didn't behave like a man who was engaged to me. Instead, he acted as if Madison was his real fiancé. But what felt like a knife stabbing into my heart was the secretly recorded video by James. The phone screen displayed a corner of a lavish hotel suite. Margaret, Jake's mother, sat on the sofa across from Madison. She placed her hand over Madison's, her voice soft yet filled with meaning. Asterisk, once this is over, you and Jake will have a lifetime together. Asterisk. Madison smiled and nodded. I didn't need to hear anything else. That was the moment I realized the undeniable truth. Jake's family never wanted me as their daughter-in-law. They were merely stalling for time, building a facade while quietly arranging for another woman to take my place. I threw my phone onto the bed, my heart pounding. A storm of betrayal, pain, and fury swirled inside me. 3 years of love, 3 years of trust. Was it all just a joke to them? I tried to hold back my tears, but I couldn't. Jake hadn't just betrayed me. He had betrayed the promises, the plans, the memories we had built together. His family never accepted me, and now they had found someone to replace me. The only question echoing in my mind was, what will I do next? I hadn't slept at all on Sunday night. Knowing Jake would be back from Miami that day, I was overwhelmed with conflicting emotions, anger, pain, and confusion. But above all, I needed answers. I needed to know why he had betrayed me like this. On Monday morning, when I heard the knock on my door, I knew it was Jake. I opened it, and there he was, the man I had loved for 3 years. The same face, the same eyes, yet something felt distant in the way he looked at me. "Hey," he said, his voice slightly hesitant. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. Asterisk, hey? Really, Jake? After disappearing for a week with another woman, all you have to say to me is, hey? Asterisk. Jake averted his gaze and stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. He paced around the living room as if stalling for time. I stood still, waiting. A part of me hoped he would deny everything, that it was all a misunderstanding, that I was wrong. But Jake's eyes told me that the truth would be far from comforting. Finally, he took a deep breath and looked directly at me. Asterisk, Emma, I think we should take a break. Asterisk. Time froze. I stared at him, trying to process what he had just said. Asterisk. A break. Asterisk. I let out a bitter laugh. Asterisk. Jake, we're getting married. In a week. And now you want a break. Asterisk. He bit his lip, searching for the right words. Asterisk. I just think, maybe we need some space to think. Things are moving too fast. Maybe we should step back for a moment. Asterisk. I shook my head, feeling my anger rise. Asterisk. Space? To think. Don't tell me you went to Miami just to think about this. I know everything, Jake. I know about Madison. I know you were with her. I know your parents treat her like their future daughter-in-law. Asterisk. Jake paled. His throat barbed as he swallowed hard, his fists clenching. Emma, Asterisk. Why don't you just say it outright? Asterisk. I cut him off. Asterisk. You don't want to marry me, do you? They found someone better suited for you, didn't they? Someone your parents approve of. Asterisk. He looked away, saying nothing. And that silence said it all. A sharp pain stabbed through my chest, like a blade piercing my heart. Asterisk. So after 3 years, after everything we've been through, you're willing to throw it all away just because your parents want you to marry someone else? Asterisk. Jake closed his eyes, as if he couldn't bear to meet mine. Asterisk. I'm sorry, Emma. Asterisk. Those words meant nothing to me. Sorry wouldn't erase the pain he had caused. It wouldn't change the fact that I had been cruelly betrayed. I clenched my fists, steadying my voice. Asterisk. Get out of my house, Jake. Asterisk. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but then simply sighed and turned away. The door shut behind him, leaving me standing there, my heart shattered into pieces. I had believed Jake and I could withstand anything. I had believed our love was strong enough to overcome external pressure. But I had been wrong. I collapsed onto the couch, unable to stop the tears from spilling over. And that was when I realized, this wasn't just betrayal. This was the end of a chapter in my life. But I wouldn't let it define me. I wouldn't let Jake and his family decide my fate. They may have cancelled my wedding, but they wouldn't destroy me. Jake sat across from me in the living room, his gaze avoiding mine, his fingers tightly intertwined on his lap. I could see the nervous energy in his every movement. But I was no longer the naive girl who believed in empty promises. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. Asterisk. Jake, are you sure you want a break? Asterisk. I asked, locking eyes with him. He was silent for a long moment before he nodded. Asterisk. I think so. I need time to think. Asterisk. I nodded as if considering his words. Then I reached for the folder on the table and placed it in front of him. Asterisk. Then think with all the facts, Jake. Asterisk. He frowned and slowly opened the file. The first photos appeared, Jake and Madison sitting close together in an upscale restaurant, chatting intimately. Next, there was a picture of them walking along the beach, their eyes filled with warmth. And then, a photo of his parents looking at Madison with affection, as if she were their future daughter-in-law. I could hear Jake's breathing grow heavy. He flipped through the pages, his eyes widening when he saw a video taken from a hidden angle in a bar. In the video, his mother, Margaret, was speaking to Madison. Asterisk. Once this is over, you and Jake will have a lifetime together. Asterisk. Jake slammed the file down on the table as if it burned his hands. He looked at me, his gaze a mix of shock, anger, and confusion. Asterisk. Emma. This. You were spying on me. Asterisk. I crossed my arms. Asterisk. What do you think? Jake, a week before our wedding, you suddenly disappeared with your parents and some strange woman. Was I supposed to just sit and wait for you to come back with a goodbye and no explanation? Asterisk. He opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, the living room door swung open. Margaret and Richard stepped in, their expressions calm as if they had just come for morning tea. Asterisk. Emma, dear. Asterisk. Margaret smiled, her voice sickly sweet. Asterisk. Can we talk in private? Asterisk. Jake shot to his feet, his voice tense. Asterisk. Mom, I want to know what's going on. Is any of this true? Asterisk. Margaret glanced at the file on the table and sighed, as if speaking to a stubborn child. Asterisk. Son, we only want what's best for you. Asterisk. Asterisk. What's best for me? Asterisk. Jake repeated, his voice shaking with rage. Asterisk. By lying, manipulating, and trying to replace my fiancé? Asterisk. Margaret simply smiled, her gaze icy. Asterisk. Jake, you'll thank us later. You deserve someone more suitable. Asterisk. I let out a cold laugh and crossed my arms. Asterisk. You're right, Margaret. Jake does deserve someone better. And so do I. And I won't sit back and be betrayed. Asterisk. She stared at me as if I were an insignificant nuisance. Asterisk. Emma, you're a sweet girl, but you're not right for our family. Asterisk. I no longer felt heartbroken. I only felt relieved. I looked at Jake, waiting to see what he would do. He looked at his mother, then turned to me. Asterisk. Emma. I'm sorry. I had no idea it had gone this far. Asterisk. I nodded slightly. Asterisk. You have two choices, Jake. You can keep listening to your parents and let them control your life. Or you can stand up and decide what you really want. But just so you know, I won't wait. Asterisk. Silence filled the room. I looked at him one last time, then turned and walked away, feeling lighter than ever. I sat on my bed, still feeling empty after my confrontation with Jake and his family. What they had done wasn't just a betrayal. It was a calculated, chilling setup. I couldn't believe the man I had loved for 3 years had turned his back on me so easily. My phone vibrated. It was Sophie. Asterisk. Emma, do you have a minute? This is important. Asterisk. Her voice was urgent, enough to make my nerves tighten. Asterisk. What is it? Asterisk. I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm still in Miami, Sophie began. Asterisk. And you won't believe what I just overheard. Asterisk. I gripped my phone tightly. Asterisk. Tell me. Asterisk. Sophie took a deep breath before continuing. Asterisk. I was sitting in a cafe when I saw Madison at the table next to me. She was talking to a friend, laughing, and sounding very confident. She was bragging about how Jake's family helped her push you out of the fiancé position. Asterisk. My chest tightened. Asterisk. What exactly did she say? Asterisk. Asterisk. It was all planned. Jake's family took him on this trip not just to introduce him to Madison, but to ease him into a relationship with her. They arranged all their meetups so he'd grow comfortable with her. And you were just an obstacle that needed to be removed. Asterisk. I bit my lip, my heart aching. Asterisk. Does Jake know about this? Asterisk. Sophie hesitated before answering. Asterisk. From what Madison said, it sounds like he's been convinced this is what's best for his future. But I'm not sure if he knows all the details. Asterisk. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Asterisk. Did they say anything else? Asterisk. Sophie let out a dry laugh. Asterisk. Madison was also boasting that she'll officially be Jake's wife in a few months. She thinks you'll back down soon. Asterisk. I closed my eyes, willing myself not to let the tears fall. But instead of pain, I felt something else rise within me. Fury. I wasn't going to let them win so easily. Asterisk. I won't let this go. Asterisk. My voice was cold. I figured you'd say that, Sophie chuckled. Asterisk. Do you have a plan? Asterisk. Not yet, I admitted. Asterisk. But I'm not backing down. Asterisk. Sophie agreed. Asterisk. I'll keep an eye on Madison. If I hear anything new, I'll let you know. Asterisk. I felt grateful to have a friend like her. Asterisk. Thank you, Sophie. I really appreciate it. Asterisk. You're not alone, Emma, Sophie reassured me. Asterisk. We're going to expose them. Asterisk. I ended the call and looked out the window. The Charleston sky was still as clear as ever, but I knew a storm was coming. And this time, I wasn't going to run from it. I walked into the cafe where Jake had agreed to meet me. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady as I sat down across from him. Jake looked tense, gripping his paper cup tightly, his gaze avoiding mine. He knew why I was here. Why do you want to meet me? He asked, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep. I stared at him, not beating around the bush. I want you to choose, Jake. Me, or your family. Jake let out a deep sigh, running a hand through his messy brown hair. Emma, you know I love you. But it's not that simple. I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. Not that simple. Your parents have orchestrated an entire plan to replace me with Madison, Jake. I have proof. They're not just against me, they want to erase me. Jake swallowed hard, looking down at the table. I saw his hands tremble. I know, he whispered. I know what they've done. His confession took me by surprise. You know, I repeated, disbelief creeping into my voice. And you still stayed silent? Jake closed his eyes for a moment. I hoped they would change. That they'd see I love you and stop trying to control my life. But when I refused to go along with Madison, they threatened to cut me off. A sharp pain shot through my chest. So, are you going to let them manipulate you forever? Jake shook his head, but he didn't answer right away. I could see the war raging inside him, his love for me clashing with years of obedience to his family. Before he could say anything else, the cafe door swung open. I turned and saw Jake's parents walk in, their faces filled with anger. Margaret strode toward us, her sharp eyes sweeping over me before locking onto her son. Jake, we need to talk, she said coldly. Jake stiffened but didn't stand up. For the first time, I saw him hesitate instead of immediately obeying his mother. I think we're already talking, I said, my voice carrying an unmistakable challenge. Margaret smirked. Do you really think you can force your way into our family? She turned to Jake. Jake, you know what you need to do. If you choose her, you're no longer my son. The air in the cafe grew heavy. I could feel the weight of the stairs around us, but all of it was a blur. The only thing that mattered was Jake's answer. Slowly he stood up, looking at his mother with an expression I had never seen before, a mix of determination and heartbreak. You can't force me to live the life you want, he said, his voice steady despite the tremor in it. I love Emma. Margaret shook her head, disappointment flickering in her eyes. Jake, you're making a mistake. Jake clenched his fists. No. My mistake was letting you control me for so long. I held my breath. For the first time, Jake was truly standing up to his parents. But I also saw the pain in his eyes. Despite everything, he loved them. Margaret stared at him for a long, agonizing moment, then turned and walked away. Jake's father silently followed, never saying a word. Jake let out a heavy sigh, lowering his head to the table, his shoulders sagging under the weight of everything. I reached over, placing my hand over his, giving it a gentle squeeze. Are you okay? I asked softly. He lifted his gaze to me, a weak but genuine smile on his lips. I don't know. But I do know one thing. I don't want to lose you. I smiled. For the first time in days filled with doubt and pain, I felt a glimmer of hope. I looked straight into Jake's eyes, my heart no longer trembling. And in that moment, I realized a truth I should have understood long ago. I deserved someone stronger, someone who wasn't shackled by his family's control. This is where we end, I said, my voice calmer than ever. Jake froze. Emma, don't do this. You don't have to say anything else. I cut him off. You had so many chances to stand by me, but you didn't. Margaret leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, a triumphant smile playing on her lips. Good. This is what you should have done from the start. Jake will marry Madison, and you can go back to your life. I let out a quiet chuckle. Do you think I'm heartbroken over leaving Jake? No. I just feel sorry for him, because he'll never get to live his own life. Jake turned back to his mother, his eyes filled with anger. You pushed me this far, and you're happy about it? Margaret shrugged. I only want what's best for you. And what's best is a wife who can elevate you, not drag you down. Jake's jaw clenched. No, you just want to control me. You never cared about what I really wanted. She arched an eyebrow. If you choose her, you're no longer my son. Silence hung in the air. I could see the conflict raging inside Jake, but this time, I didn't wait. "I wish you the best, Jake." With that, I turned and walked away, without looking back. I didn't need a man who had to wrestle with himself to choose me. I didn't need someone who hesitated between his family and the woman he claimed to love. I deserved someone who would stand for me, without a second thought. And if it wasn't Jake, then I was ready to walk away from him forever. A month after calling off my engagement to Jake, I felt like I had been freed from a cage that had trapped me for the past 3 years. At first, it wasn't easy. Old memories haunted me, and sleepless nights were filled with doubts about whether I had made the right decision. But as each day passed, I realized that leaving was the best thing I had ever done for myself. I threw myself into my work. Instead of spending time planning a lavish wedding, I focused on developing my new project. My interior design company was thriving, and I knew this was the future I wanted to pursue. No longer did I have to worry about whether I fit into someone else's family. I was free, and for the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. Sophie, as always, was my best friend. She decided to throw a small party over the weekend to celebrate me. Cheers to breaking free from that toxic family. Sophie raised her glass, her eyes filled with pride. My closest friends were there too, encouraging and supporting me, making me even more certain that I had chosen the right path. In the middle of the party, I received a letter. From Jake. I held it in my hands, hesitating for a moment before opening it. The neatly written words on the page appeared before my eyes. Asterisk, Emma. I've thought a lot about what happened. I know I hurt you, and no words can change that. But I want you to know that I am truly sorry. I let my family control my life for too long, and you were the only one brave enough to point it out. You're stronger than I am, Emma, and I admire you for that. I don't expect you to forgive me or come back, but I hope you will always be happy. Jake. Asterisk. I finished reading the letter and let out a soft sigh. A part of me felt relieved that Jake had finally recognized his own flaws. But I also knew it was too late. I had moved on, and there was no need to look back. I didn't respond to the letter. Instead, I folded it, tucked it away in a drawer as a memory of the past, and returned to my friends, immersing myself in the laughter and glowing lights of the party. That night, as I stepped out of the bar, I looked up at the starry sky. A sense of peace spread through me. I was no longer a victim of anyone. I was myself, and I would continue walking my path, stronger than ever. Emma's story offers some profound lessons about love, self-worth, and independence. 1. Self-worth comes first. Emma realized she deserved a man who valued and protected her, not someone controlled by his family. 2. Family cannot decide for you. Jake lived under his parents' control, and it cost him real love. Emma's final decision proves that no one has the right to manipulate your life. 3. Don't ignore red flags. From the beginning, Emma knew Jake's family didn't like her, but she hoped things would change. When the truth came out, she had the courage to face it and escape the toxic relationship. 4. Betrayal is never accidental. Jake's actions, along with his family's, weren't just minor mistakes but the result of calculated choices. This is a reminder that if someone doesn't prioritize you, you shouldn't force yourself to stay. 5. Let go of the past to move forward. Instead of dwelling on resentment or regret, Emma chose to focus on herself and her career. This is the best way to heal and build a brighter future. Which lesson resonates with you the most?